Hi, I'm Matthew Clark, and you're listening to the Cinematography podcast.
The following podcast contains explicit language. You're listening to the Cinematography podcast presented by Hot Rod Cameras, a program about the art, craft, and philosophy of the moving image and the people who make it happen. Coming to you from the world headquarters of Hot Rod Cameras in Hollywood, California, are your hosts, Ben Rock and Ilya Friedman.
Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Cinematography podcast.
I'm real excited. Episode 38.
Yes, we're creeping slowly to 40, even though we've recorded 900 episodes already.
We're soundly in middle age, though, at 38, I'd say.
That's fine. Yeah, we're old enough to run for president. So, Ilya,
Yeah.
Who is on the podcast today?
The one, the only, Matt Clark.
This is a fascinating interview, and it's one of the first ones I did after my basically forced one-year hiatus from having a baby.
Yeah, there goes that swear jar. You got to throw it. You can throw a buck in right now. You mentioned the baby.
Here it is, sound effect.
All right.
Yeah, mention the baby. But no, Matt Clark is he's a fascinating guy.
Fun interview.
Very fun, very funny and engaging person. And I think that given that he's mostly known for his comedy work, including the movie Late Night, which is in theaters right now.
That's right.
I think people will find his background a little surprising.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a good tease.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go in any more detail.
Don't.
Without further ado, here we go. Matt Clark.
The Cinematography podcast interview.
All right, so I am here in Burbank, California with Matthew Clark. Thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
So I always start with the same question, and I think given the kind of stuff that you tend to make, I'm interested to hear the answer. The question is, when you're reading a script, imagining the cinematography, whenever you get to that point, and we can even get to how you get to that point, right. Are you imagining it as a series of compositions, or are you imagining it like as lighting or a look? And my theory kind of revolves around like some people come up through camera, some people come up through electric, and often it's the electric people who are most excited about the composition and vice versa. But anyway, what is your inclination?
I think what the thing is when you're reading a script, it's first of all, the script is gold, right? That's where everything comes from. And then it takes the different influences from a director or from yourself and your past experiences to take you beyond that into something where you can actually shoot it. And I think for me, it's really just sort of comes at a rush. I mean, it's just all at once. But I think that it's more about the feeling of the light and the look that comes to me first when I'm of things that I would like to see it happen in the script, and then from there, composition is, I think probably the lighting and the look is first, and then composition after that. But to me, the look is actually composition as well, because like one of the things we're working on now is William Eggleston is a big reference for it. And so very a lot of supernatural lighting.
Who is William Eggleston on that?
William Eggleston is a photographer from the around the 50s, 60s, 70s, and he did a lot. This one amazing book where he traveled in the South and shot all these just sort of really amazing stills. And
oh, cool!
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful stuff. The most amazing picture on the front of one of his books is a tricycle, low angle tricycle, just this sort of urban landscape behind it. Just he tells a story in a picture, and that's what I think we want to do as cinematographers. So anyway, the idea of that is that. There's also, he does a lot of center framing for stuff, and then center framing with negative space. So there's like this feeling that you get from you either feel really empowered or really alone, depending on where the person is. And I think that all those kind of things inform what you're doing. And actually, it's hard for me when I'm doing a job with a certain tone to turn that off and go see something else right away. And it's because I really try to zone in on what's going on in my project. So. sometimes my wife can't stand it because I can't watch television like a normal person. So.
I mean, like, do you just get frustrated watching television, or are you
sometimes it depends? Yeah, sometimes or like if I'm
is it
shooting,
like here's how I do that? Or,
yeah, right. Well, sometimes yeah, but then other times it's like I can't go watch Game of Thrones after I'm doing like a freaking light comedy. It just doesn't work.
I would think it would be cathartic.
Well, it is a little cathartic, and I also get a little jealous too.
Well, I mean, so before we even get into your background, I think that our listeners who are familiar with your work will know that your work is mostly in comedy. Even you've done some pretty high concept stuff, but correct me if I'm wrong, but like 30 Rock was probably like that's the thing everyone's going to know you from.
Right.
You shot most of that show, right?
Yes. It was that was a great experience. That was amazing. It's funny because I went to film school, went to NYU. Brooding artist,
That's the next place we're going to go. Let's keep going.
Okay,
just take us right there.
Okay, good. So, brooding. I was like dramatic. Wanted to do dramatic stuff. When I went there to write and direct, right? That's what I went there with the idea to do that. I also wanted to be an actor first. I had this whole thing about this whole streak in me. Always took pictures. That's what sort of got me going that way. And then, to be this drama brooding artist and then go shoot 30 Rock was a big change, but it was fun. I mean, I was having a blast with it. So
was 30 Rock the pivot point you started? I mean,
yeah, basically it was. I mean, and it's, with any artistic career, as you start making choices, when you start making your choices, people see you as those things. You can be put in one area very quickly. So I think, I was fortunate enough to get the job. My friend Vanja Cernjul was a DP that started off there, and then when he left to go do something else, I got to bump up and be the DP. And I really shot all dramas before that, a lot of dramas. I mean, I actually a couple of my own student films were comedies, but most of my stuff was dramatic before that, and so then I jumped into that world, and it was very freeing, very liberating. To sort of feel that, I don't know, it was just, those people brought their A game every day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, your cast and writers.
Tina Fey and Alec Baldwin, Robert Carlock writers, John Rigi writer. I mean, they just had it going on. And so I had to step up, and I felt like I had to bring my A game every time. I wasn't going to, at any point, Alec Baldwin, those big mitts could come on your shoulder and say, Matt, I need to talk to you for a second. And you're like, oh God, what'd I do?
I'm screwed.
I'm screwed. But no, they were great. And Tina was awesome. She's like one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And so it inspires you to do that, to work hard for her.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will get to 30 Rock.
Okay.
I promise you.
Okay.
But I want to go back to when it first occurred to you, because you're saying you went to NYU, and actually we mentioned this off mic a second ago, but you were the gaffer. Yes. On a short film called Fish Belly White.
Yes,
I want to say it was 1996 or 1997. I had my student thesis film at the Florida Film Festival, and I thought I had a chance, but Fish Belly White won that.
Oh no, Mike beat you, man.
It's all good. It's all good.
That's funny.
That's how it all goes.
That's hilarious. Yeah, well, it's like, that's one of those things. It's a student film, right? And you're all in it together. And man, that was a crazy job. Actually, there was. So yeah, it was Michael.
Was that an NYU project?
That was an NYU project, yeah.
Okay.
And actually, Michael is now the chairman of the grad department at NYU.
Oh wow!
So the guy that won with Fish Belly White, is now the chairman of that.
So he stuck with it.
He stuck with it. Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah,
to know.
And then Vanja Cernjul was the DP, and he's still a good friend of mine, and I gaffed for him for that part. And, and for his first few features out of school too.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So you said NYU. You went to NYU. Mm-hmm. You were interested in acting and directing and writing at the time. Is that really? Exactly right. Is that what you went to NYU for?
I went to grad school there. So I went as a writer director.
Where'd you do undergrad?
Marshall University.
And was it for
Huntington, West Virginia? No.
Okay.
It was I took theater there, broadcasting, marketing, just your basic stuff. And
was there a specific major though?
Yeah, broadcasting. Was
okay.
Yeah, I worked radio. I was a radio guy.
Nice.
I had my own mic and everything, and I was a DJ in the morning. And
super fancy like we are right now?
Yeah, exactly. These cool, nice retro ribbon. So it was so I did that. That's what I started off doing. I did the theater program there and loved acting. And after my first year in college, I went home and not even after my first year, after the first semester, I went home and told my dad, I said, you know what, I'm quitting. I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to try and make it in movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was serious
So
about it.
what was the spark of that? Like what brought that into your head? In the first
Well,
place?
in high school, I never did the theater in high school. It was always, I just wasn't interested in what they always did musicals, and I wasn't interested in musicals. So when I got to college, I auditioned for a few plays and got into these plays, and I didn't have to sing and stuff and dance and everything, which is good. I just didn't like it. So then I caught the bug, I guess, and I was like, I'm spinning my wheels here. I don't need to. And I think any time you're 18 and 19 years old, you got the whole world in front of you, and you want to explore things, and so I was like, I'm quitting and moving to LA. I want to be in movies because I loved movies my entire life. It's like I snuck down at late at night and would sit. We had a banister that went up beside in our living room, and so I could sneak down and sit in the back of the stairwell and look at the television and watch television over my dad's shoulder. And and every once in a while he would say, come down here, I know you're there, come on. And we'd watch like High Plains Drifter or
sweet.
John Wayne movies, and
what were the
Shore,
movies?
Yellow Ribbon.
Like when you were able to choose the movies, like what kind of movies were you gravitating towards at that age?
Oh, at that age, Indiana Jones and all,
of course,
all that, all that kind of stuff. Anything like that. I loved heist movies. I loved. There was one movie that I probably shouldn't have been watching. It was Sweet Smell of Success, but for some reason I thought that was I was like probably 13 or 14. I thought that was the coolest movie ever.
I don't know that I've seen that.
It's really, really good. Yeah, James Wong Howe shot it. It's freaking amazing. But I don't know why a 13-year-old liked it, but I did.
That's fine.
So something, it was something about how insanely present it was in the moment of that kind of world. They created this world there that was just like, it's publicists, all these New York publicists, Broadway publicists.
Yeah.
And Tony Curtis was in it, and then Burt Lancaster. And they play rival, like Tony Curtis is a young guy trying to take over where.
Sounds like catnip for most 14-year-olds.
Yes, but I don't know why I liked it, but I did. It was very strange, very strange. Anyway, so
I mean, it does kind of like connect to what you end up shooting later.
Yeah, it was a black and white. And to me, black and white movies were like, and like all the Humphrey Bogart movies and The Big Sleep, all that kind of stuff. I loved The Big Sleep. The Big Sleep was awesome. All those kind of movies, Hitchcock movies, black and white to me was saying it was part of history. It was part of what, where we were, and I don't know. I just that's what sort of excited me. But also High Plains Drifter, Shore, Yellow Ribbon. I mean, all those kind of old Fort Apache.
Yeah, those are fun.
Those are just those were all the kind of things. My dad loved those, so I would watch those with him.
So when you finished up actually, what kept you in undergrad if you were going to quit?
Oh well, I kept. So I told my dad I was going to quit, right, and I was going to move to LA. He said, "Okay, that's fine, you can do that, but I'm not paying for it." And I was like, "Okay," and he said, "You got to get a job. When you have enough money to move, you can move." And I was like, "Okay." So I got a job working at a Maxell tape factory, like making videotapes, like literally the boxes, the tape. And
when you opened the door, it was like wind that blew you back.
Yeah, exactly. I was sitting in a chair back.
Nobody ever made that joke before.
I know, that's a new one. But so I went to work there, and I stuck this big coil of ferric oxide on the machine, threaded it through all these bumpers, and then pressed a button, and then that would take it in the videotape box. Would come sliding down the chute and stick at the bottom of it, wind it in, and go down the assembly line, and just keep going and go into the other room, and someone would pack it up. So I did that job for about a month and almost 2 months, and I pressed that button like 27,000 times a week or something like that. And at that point, I was like, "Dad, I'm going back to college, I think." Nothing against Maxell Tape Factory, but it was like, I realized quickly that if that was what it was going to take to get me there, I figured I could learn something along the way, do something a little different. So
it's a good thing you didn't get a more entertaining job.
Yes, it would. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'd be hanging out in Culver City right now.
So you go back, you go to undergrad, and then you decide to go to NYU graduate school. You decide to apply, which is like, that's one of the hardest film schools probably to get into, period.
Yeah, I applied to a bunch of different places, and I was the first person at Marshall to make a movie as their sort of senior thesis.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. So that was I made this.
How long of a movie?
It's like 15 minutes. And we didn't, in our broadcasting production class, we made like commercials and things like that. But this was like an actual narrative thing that I wrote. looking back on it, I'm glad no one's probably ever going to see it. But it was at that time.
When's the last time you watched it?
Oh my God, it's been years now, probably 10 years now. So
you watched it 10 years ago. So that's somewhat
Well, I had
recent.
to. My mom probably was one that showed it to me. So I said, remember this?
That's
But
funny.
so that sort of helped me really catch the bug for that part of the business and the idea of doing that. And I started writing and took pictures constantly. It was just that kind of thing. And I decided I really wanted to try for this. And so, I applied to, all the big schools and tons of places. I got rejected the first time. And
At NYU?
At NYU.
Yeah.
And I got rejected at, most places. And then I went back. I actually called the admissions office in NYU and got to talk to one of the professors there, Bill Riley. And I said, so what do I need to do? I didn't get in. What do I need to do? And he said, well, he laid it out for me. He said, this is what we felt was missing. And I was like, okay. So I went to work, and that's what I did. I worked at a commercial house in West Virginia, and I had access to a camera. And so every weekend I would make little things, just trying little things out. And
what kind of camera was it? Film or?
They had an Arri S.
Oh,
A little 16 millimeter.
Oh yeah.
And then we had like an Ikegami, and then we had another JVC video recorder, and it was just like whatever I could get my hands on, And then I do like little still shots and sort of do sort of almost like stop motion animation, but not really. It was just like trying to tell a story with flip slides and stuff.
Oh, cool.
But it was
like
just
La Jetée kind of thing.
Yeah. So the whole thing for me was always I just really like to tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it sounds very simplistic, but that's what it is.
That's where it starts, though.
Yeah. You want to. I like listening to stories. I love sitting around the campfire. I love like all that kind of stuff. I mean, at night for my kids, I used to tell. I used to make up a Raiders of the Lost Ark or Indiana Jones story almost every other night, just like talking to them, until the point where they would play with their Legos and we'd play those little.
Oh, that's
little
sweet.
things. So it's like that telling a story is so crucial, and that's what you do. That's what I get to do with pictures now.
Yeah.
And try to elevate the story and elevate the actor and make it so that so a viewer has a feeling, has some emotion attached to it, which is interesting. And this is probably going way off of what you want to talk about.
It's all good.
But
we can wander.
Okay. But that's the thing about comedy that scared the crap out of me when I first started, was because the impression of comedy is that you need to just put a bunch of front light on it and then let them go to town.
Well, let's talk about that, because to me that is the stereotype of comedy.
Right.
And also, if I do say so, YouTube, and as much as I love Funny or Die, like the early Funny or Die stuff was just like shot with available light, like not like no effort went into it. And even like we had on here a long time ago Charles Pappert, who shot Key and Peele, and he even said that like he consciously wanted to go against that trend in comedy at the time and go for a more cinematic look, but it was kind of counterintuitive. By the way, we have to mention Charles Pappert in every episode.
In every episode,
sorry about that.
He's a contributor. He trolls. Hey, Charles, if you're listening,
he'll totally troll us on Facebook. No, but seriously, but I do think that like what is it that you bring to cinematography in comedy, and is there like pushback from producers who are like, look, just point a big light at it, just put a big soft source over there and move on with your life?
Well, I think early on for me so I got christened with 30 Rock, and what a better way to start. I mean, my God, you got these amazing actors that are just
so how do you end up on 30 Rock? I mean, like if you have
I was operating.
You were operating on 30 Rock.
Yeah. So I'd just done this movie with Vera Farmiga called Never Forever, which was this really intense, melodramatic $2 million movie
that you DP'd.
That I DP'd.
Okay.
And I'm going for interviews for another movie for about the same budget. That's back when the union really didn't get involved with that low budget of film. They weren't quite there yet. So I'm going to get another interview for this other thing, and I get a call from Vanja, and he says, "Matt, I really need you." And so I'm like, "Okay, Vanja, what are you talking about?" And so he's like, so we talk for a little bit about it, and he was very kind to let me come and operate, and I joined the union. I had joined the union earlier as an operator, and so it was probably my fifth project or something like that. I think it was fifth as an operator. But I should back up first. Actually, my first operating job was with Tim Orr, who's one of my best friends. He's a great guy. He and Vanja are my I've known them forever, and they're my go-to pals.
Sweet.
And Michael McDonough is another guy too that's also a good friend. And so all of us were in New York at the same time, and so you sort of have this like soup. You work with the same people, you do all these other things, so you know what the other person's doing, they know what you're doing, and then fortunately for me, Tim and Vanja needed an operator, and I needed the hours, so I could get my health insurance for my kids.
Very important.
so it's when commerce and art meet, and I just lucked out getting to go to do 30 Rock, so it was the best thing ever.
So how long did you operate before you started shooting it?
I was on for I came in episode 10 of the first season. And I was DPing. Then we finished that season off, and then we went through the second season, which was a strike-shortened season, writer's strike. So we only did 15 episodes. I did the last 2 episodes of that season because Vanja had to go to a different job.
Okay.
And then they started looking for other DPs for the fall, and I said, "Hey, I'm over here. Hey guys!" And Tina and Robert were very cool, and Alec stood behind me and was like, let's let this guy do it. So.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was great. It was very cool. Very cool.
And so coming off of like more brooding, darker drama stuff, going to something like that, which is like very high paced kind of farce.
Yeah. Absurdist. Absurdist comedy. Yeah.
What's the shift that happens in your mind creatively in order to like, obviously you'd already been operating, so you were used to their rhythm.
Right. Yeah.
But like,
that was the fortunate part is I got to step in and know the rhythm and feel the rhythm and knew what Tina wanted and knew what Carlock wanted, and that Robert Carlock, he was the other showrunner.
Okay.
On it. So anyway, I sort of could feel what they wanted because I would do tandem units while I was operating. So we'd have a tandem unit every once in a while. So I'd go off and shoot something with them.
Okay.
So I had experience leading into it before I took over completely. But the thing that I had to think about, and really was sort of a negotiation with all of us, because Vanja and I were very similar in that regard. Like we wanted, to me, especially with the way modern cinematography is going, people are really, they know what's going on. You can't I don't think you can just slap stuff up there anymore.
Yeah.
It's really important and for me, it's really important to ground what I'm doing in reality. So to overlight something or to flatten it out because that's supposed to be the way funny is, just doesn't make sense anymore. But basically what I'm trying to say is that if you ground something in reality, then I think it allows people space to feel something and laugh at something.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for us to dumb down television. People expect to see more stuff now. I mean,
but you're starting that, like, we're right in the middle of like kind of peak Funny or Die where I feel like the YouTube vibe at the time in comedy that had bled into comedy was sort of like, I think it was sort of this like, let's just keep it real and strip it down kind of a thing. But that show is not a stripped down, kept real show. It's a heightened, surreal show.
Yeah.
So
to me, that was the important part, was to keep it as natural as I could, so that the surreal had somewhere to go. So I think for surreal to work, you have to be somewhere where you expect normal things to happen. Mm-hmm. And then the surreal can work on top of that. Like anytime you write something, I think you have to write with an aspect that this part could be real, and then you take a dive for the surreal.
Yeah, yeah.
And the good thing about 30 Rock was at the time, I feel like they had such a broad base of people and fans that they could jump quickly to the surreal every episode. You could go into just nuttiness almost right off the bat. And my job was to be very simple and frank. I just didn't want to step on the joke half the time.
Yeah.
You don't want to step on the what the scene is about, but you want to. I think we wanted to always bring it to a point, photographically as well, to where the joke stood out.
I was going to ask, like, tell me the wrong way to do it. How would you step on a joke with camera?
I think making the lighting too specific, unless you're going for something like, we had a show called Black Light Attack. And it was like Liz was having an in-office romance with one of the characters that was played a robot, and he always had luminescent paint on him, and so, but you could only see it if it was under black light. And so we did this whole scene where they come in and they Donaghy turns off the light and shows handprints all over her from the luminescent from the light. So that lighting allowed for that joke to happen. Yeah. Right. And
that's like a very lighting specific
cue. So that's what I mean is if you stay broad but natural, then it allows the actors room to move for physical comedy. allows them to open up in the scenes, like in Donaghy's office, which I must have lit 180,000 times. But that's but you have these, not to like a shaft of light here while it's beautiful is going to disrupt when he walks around the corner. It's going to distract from what's going on over here. And so you learn how to like bring it together and take it back, and bring it. You bring as much ammo as you can to something, and then you step back.
Now, on a show like that, how involved were the directors? Or, I mean, I guess maybe it was. I'm sure it depended.
Oh, it completely depends.
But how involved were they in the coverage, or how often were you sort of saying like, well, ordinarily we would do it like this.
Yeah, it depended on. It really depended on what, who the director was.
Yeah.
Their style, why they were hired. There's certain times where you can tell when if you've been on a show for a couple of years, you can tell the director was hired to come in and break it. To break stuff up, to like make it different. And so then it's like
that's fascinating.
Yeah, so because sometimes it gets a little stale and it's really
it's like Lars von Trier.
Yeah, does 30 Rock.
I would love to see that.
That would be crazy. Oh my god. Yeah.
Werner Herzog.
Yeah, comes in. I want to eat my shoe in front of the camera. No, but it was like it was interesting because everybody was different, and there would be times where I would get a director that would come in and say, okay, what would you do here? Okay, that sounds good. And then we go to the next scene. What would you do here? Okay, that sounds good. And it was like basically, and then the actors also know, what's going on too.
I guess I just wonder because that show's got there's a lot of physicality to it, and I think that a lot of your work has this, a lot of the comedy work you've done. It's like very physical people. So I guess I'm imagining the process, but you could tell me. Actually, I'm not going to imagine the process. How would you decide on that? Would it be figured out before you went to shoot it, or would you like work it out with the actors?
I think when I first started, I think everybody, I would think that most people do this, but when I first started, I really tried to plan like every little detail as much as I could, not just for 30 Rock, but for everything.
Yeah.
And I think after a while, with just experience and figuring out how things work and going, like learning the craft of acting and watching it for so many years on that show, it's like you sort of can vibe with the actors and feel what's going to happen, or feel where they want, and let them take it where they want to take it.
I mean, that's because that show seems like it's kind of a dance with the performances.
Oh, completely. And the thing is too is you also have to be mindful of how much time you're going to take.
Yeah.
So on a job like that where you're shooting, we would shoot 40 pages for a half-hour show, which is on network television is 21 minutes.
Yeah.
So we would shoot almost double what we needed because you never know where the jokes are going to go, and we'd have an A storyline, a B storyline, a C storyline, and it moved so fast, and that's one of the reasons.
How many of those 40 pages would end up in the final episode?
I guess it would be because it was so rapid fire. It could be probably, I would say 30 at the most.
Really?
Yeah, maybe 25, something like that. But it was always like when you cut to a no scene, we did those swish pans to flashbacks.
Yeah.
So you swish pan over to something that's a whole nother scene that I have to light, and we have to shoot, and we have to do a thing for, and so it's not just usually it was one shot or two shots, but it's still you have to light the scene. So we'd have like 20 sets. It was crazy. When we did our live show on the SNL stage, we did 22 scenes on that stage, and they normally do for an hour and a half show. They normally do something like 12.
Yeah.
So it was like that. Just shows you
how many days would it take to shoot one of those episodes?
It would be 5. We shoot in 5 days with a tandem usually, so it'd be 5.5 days, something like that.
So it's like 8 pages a day. That's pretty fast.
Yeah. It was
considering that it's like a lot of snappy dialogue.
Yeah, and then that's what you have to be able to make your days, and so people can like live, and so you really, and we had some long days on that, but it wasn't too crazy, but if an actor wants to walk from the right side of the stage to the left side of the stage, you have to light that, or especially on a stage, if you're in a location, sometimes you get lucky with some beautiful ambient light that is coming in or whatever. So those are choices you have to be able to talk to the director about. Say, okay, we do it. If he goes over there, we do a turnaround. We owe his coverage here and her coverage there.
Yeah.
And now we're going to change the line to the other side of the line, the 180 line. We're going to go to the other side of the line now. And so I owe coverage there and there for a television show. Because the way they like to cut is just they would just like snap, snap, snap. So they really cut those close-ups, and they really cut that. So they always wanted that.
Yeah.
I think when you do a more dramatic thing, or more even something that's a little more easygoing pace, you can allow for the crossing lines and all this kind of stuff. And because I feel like, as long as it serves the story, tells the story, it's very natural and very open. And I think,
but to me, that's always one of those things where you're blocking a scene and an actor has an impulse to walk like 3 feet to the left, and you're like,
yeah,
it makes sense, but also there goes an hour.
You try. I mean, I think the thing is it worth it? Is it worth it to you?
Well, also, you're working with such powerful people on a
Yeah.
show like that. Like, I mean, I guess it's not your job to say to Alec Baldwin or Tracy Morgan or whatever.
No.
But you're the one who has to give the director the news. Like, okay, well, if Alec Baldwin wants to walk over there, then we're just gonna have to get light over there.
Yeah, and sometimes the relationship you develop with an actor that likes you, respects you, and you respect them, is sometimes he would say, if I go here, is that gonna be bad? And I would say, well, what do you mean by bad?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's my job as a DP to tell an actor where to go. But I can give, if someone that I've been working with for a while asks me, I can say we'll have 20 more minutes. And if that's important to you, I can do it. If
and that shit adds up after.
Yeah. And that's just the reality of it. I mean, that's not the artistic side of it. That's the nuts and bolts of it. So
but I feel like it's something that feeds into it, and I feel definitely. Like
it's responsibility. You got to be responsible at a certain point.
Yeah,
and everybody that works with you has a life, and there's a certain point where you need, especially on a television show that's been running for a while, and what's going on with it. You don't want to get too bored with it, but at the same time, you have to know that there's a certain pattern that has to happen in order for you to get the days done and do your job. And
so 30 Rock kind of changes the trajectory of your career.
Completely changed it. Yeah.
So
I got calls for comedies after that.
And how do you feel about, or how did you feel about that? I guess
you know what
it only wrapped up kind of recently anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I did seasons. I was the DP on 2 episodes on season 2, and then seasons 3, 4, and 5. And then from there, Lauren Michaels was starting a show here in LA, and so I did the Up All Night, the first few episodes, 10 episodes of Up All Night, and then went on and started making some movies and other things, and going back and forth between television and movies.
But it's primarily comedy.
It was always comedy, and I think for me, listen, I'm getting to practice my craft, to do what I grew up wanting to do, and I think because it would be different had that trajectory happened 20 years before, I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing now. And that because of the sort of the way this naturalism sort of did really grab a hold in television and in movies for comedy, that no longer we can shoot a comedy with anamorphics and anamorphic lenses and with low light levels and catch can, and it's still funny. And people understand it's still funny. And I think with me saying stuff like "don't step on the joke," I think for a comedy like 30 Rock, which is based on jokes, is you need to pay attention to that. But for a comedy that's like a more sort of experiential comedy, where you like a lot of awkward pauses and sitting back, sort of like Fleabag.
Okay.
Fleabag, for example, is one of those comedies where, now she talks to the lens a lot, and so that's a little different. But there's those moments of just pregnant pauses that are just right there. And in order for that to happen, I just don't think you can have something just pasted light on it. It has to be in a position where it's natural, and you can, an audience can grab a hold of it and have something to think about. And they shoot that show, I think, on anamorphics, and I think it's 2:3:5 aspect ratio. And I'm doing this pilot right now with Lee Daniels. We're doing a 2:1 aspect ratio, and we're shooting on these awesome old Panavision ultra speed lenses, and it's very super naturalistic and super experiential, and a lot of awkwardness. And
still comedy though.
Still comedy, yeah, still comedy. But it's a very different look than 30 Rock, and 30 Rock's a very. I think you said it was really just like this heightened kind of thing.
Yeah, it's farce.
Yeah, it's farce.
To me, it's like it's got a real pace and a real zip to it.
Yeah, and I've did this other comedy. It's a horror comedy called Little Evil, which was the director Eli Craig was.
That's like the Omen kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's like a comic take on the Omen.
Yeah.
Devil child, and so forth. And we did a lot of that kind of stuff with the, twisted cameras and push-ins. And he made another movie called Tucker and Dale.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he made Tucker and Dale versus
Evil. Yeah,
I love that movie.
Freaking great. Yeah,
it's a great movie.
And that was his second. Lily was his second movie, and I loved working on that movie because I was able to do a horror film, but it was comedy, so I could go dark. I mean, I went dark in that movie, And it
So,
was
I
great.
mean, and I always have a theory about horror comedy,
Yeah.
because that's just something I obsess about.
Yeah.
But like in the horror comedy world, so how do you approach it though? Are you basically shooting it like it's a horror movie and just letting the funny stuff happen within the
Yeah.
confines of the horror movie?
Yeah, basically.
Well,
I mean, because I think that the idea with that is you have a genre, right? And people know a genre. And I think if you give them that genre and it feels right, and it's a lot of it's homage to different things. Also, when you're doing a horror comedy, you have homage to different scenes.
Well, and that one
homage
is like kind of
It's like the-
it's
the
the
Omen.
Omen. So
Yeah.
there's like a specific
so
one
there's
specific.
knives that are knives of destiny, and
Yeah.
there's this like crazy. Yeah, it's just really it's super fun. But I think I went as dark as I possibly could every scene, and we went with crazy lighting and effects and all this other stuff. And then if it felt like it was like something it was being buried, I could bring stuff out, but never in a flat kind of way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well.
When you
but-
say flat, you mean like
just
frontal,
like
just
frontal
kind of
stuff. It was more, it was once again very naturalistic.
Did you find yourself like looking at like the tropes of horror lighting
Oh, yeah.
and saying, I'm going to take it to a ridiculous extreme?
Yeah.
Or
So like The Conjuring, we watched
Yeah.
The Conjuring, which is also freaking amazing.
love it.
Yeah. And both Conjuring 1 and 2 we looked at were The Omen was a reference.
Did you watch the remake of The Omen, the
Did
2006
not
one?
do that. No, didn't. So I think The Conjuring was really the biggest influence, because I feel like those two movies had such a artistic palette as well. It wasn't just a horror film. It was there was a lot more to it, I thought. And
Well, I almost think that those kinds of James Wan movies too are sort of like 30 Rock is like a t-shirt cannon of jokes coming at you.
Yeah.
He does the same thing with jump scares.
yeah,
Like
no,
it's
you're
just
right.
boom,
You're right,
boom,
you're right.
boom.
Yeah,
So, well, and also I often feel like comedy and horror are kind of two sides of the same coin. They both rely on surprise.
yeah.
But there's also the issue with horror comedy, and the reason I think it's hard to get it right is that if you go too horrific, it becomes morbid and it kills the funny.
Yeah.
If you go too funny, then it loses stakes and you don't get
right,
tense.
Right. No, I agree.
So how did you modulate those two controls?
I think it was just taste. It's just like
Yeah.
you get on set and you're looking at something, and if it's not working, you got to figure out how to make it work. I worked as a DP at the Sundance Labs for a couple of years for the Directors Labs, and what they do at the Directors Labs, they match you up with two directors, and you shoot some of their hardest scenes in their movie, their film, their script, and so they workshop it with actors come in from LA and New York and wherever. And so you have experienced actors working with an inexperienced director and a semi-experienced DP, and a crew, semi with a crew that comes up, and then you have like all these amazing mentors that come in, like Redford's there. For the DPs, there was Elswit, Stuart Dryberg, Vilmos came in. So and you're sitting there with those people, and for me it was amazing, because we got to watch movies with them, their movies with them, and find out that, it was awesome. One of the most amazing moments of my career was doing this scene in this little cabin up in Sundance, and it was a scene in a bedroom, a couple waking up, and they're getting ready to have a fight, and it was trying to show them getting that tension without having without yelling at each other, that building of tension. And so that's what the director and I were working with. So I wanted it to be the opposite of that kind of light. I wanted it to be beautiful, simple, like morning light that, outside, da, 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 that kind of thing. so that you wouldn't, and so the opposite of what the scene was, right? And so I start lighting, I'm doing all this stuff, and Vilmos walks in, and I'm like, oh my God, there's Vilmos. And walks in.
I'd shit my pants.
Yeah,
That's
he's
insane.
an amazing guy, man. God, that guy's so cool. But anyway, he comes and he sits down, and I'm like lighting, and then I think, okay, I've got two more things to do. I take out this one light, make a little spike here, and then do something else and throw it on the back wall, and then take the back wall off and put it through the window, and all these little things, and then I get it right to what I think is the thing. And I say, okay, Vilmos, what do you think? He goes, Matthew, you were done 2 lights ago. And to me, that said everything. And so that's the thing, is like I think you can overdo it, and I try not to overdo it. And so to your point of the horror thing, I think you push to that moment, and you push hard, and then if it's not working, you got to take that light away or take that thing. It's like there's no reason not to push hard and then not to be able to pull back a little bit. And I think to me that's what has helped me go on through this whole life of cinematography, because I think you can get caught up in the whole idea of like having to be better, and I think it's more about just relaxing and telling the story. It really is.
So if you could give your younger self the advice of how to approach that when from earlier when you would over prepare, like is it something that only comes with experience, or like how would you advise someone to let go and do what you're saying?
Well, I think it does come with experience. I really do. But I think there are certain people that are just brilliant in that way, that very early on they can do that kind of stuff, but I think you have to be one thing you need is to be in tune with the director, in tune with the script, in tune with the actors, so that when you walk in a room and you're planned for having the camera at the end of the table and doing a push move dolly over the table to the other actor at the other end, you have all the equipment ready for that because you've scouted it, everything, you know what you want to do. If you walk in there on the day and that doesn't work, then you have to be able to say, oh, we'll take that off the table. We're not going to do that. We'll be over here. And I think allowing the actors, it's another Xander Berkeley, actor I did this movie with, I don't even know, it was in Westchester, Pennsylvania. He said at the wrap party, I was all excited. It was probably like my third feature or whatever. We shot on the Vericam when it first came out.
Yes. And 720p.
Yeah. So anyway, it was called The Land at the time, and I think it changed the name like 5 times or something. But anyway, but at the wrap party, he said, you guys missed half the movie. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, you missed half the movie. You didn't. We were doing stuff and you just missed it. And I was like, oh, what do you mean by that? And I think he was. I don't know what. I don't believe we missed half the movie, but I do get his point that we didn't really, as director and DP, we didn't really see what was going on in front of us as much as we had planned what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important, because it's a collaborative medium, to take all that in. And you still have to have the cojones to say, no, I'm right and you're wrong. But that comes with experience. That comes with your dedication and if you're in tune with your script, I think.
So, well, let's talk a little bit about just your process about like when you read a script. And kind of this goes a little bit back to my first question, right. But it's like, how do you read a script, and how do you start to think about like taking this pile of words and turning it into beautiful or appropriate, interesting, whatever pictures you need for that
right.
particular movie or TV show, and then the next step, obviously, we don't get too technical, but like how translating that to, well, I'm going to need this kind of truck and that kind of crap,
yeah. Well, to me, I'll sit and I'll read the script once. Just read it and not think about anything. Just read it. And I'm fortunate enough to be at the position where if I don't like jive with it, I can say, I just say thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
But I wasn't always like that. It was like, I got a script. I'm going to read this script.
Yeah.
No matter, I'm going to do this movie no matter what. But now I think it's like I read it once through just to get the gist of it.
Yeah.
And just to see how I feel about it at the end of it, and then I'll read it through again before I meet with the director or the producers or whatever meeting we have. And try and like have a mental image of the flow of the film, like whether it starts fast, slow, like light, dark, like very simple terms. I try to think as broad as possible in the beginning, and then usually somewhere along the way there's like 2 or 3 key scenes, right? 2 or 3 bookend, like just stuff that you can like set pieces, things that you can hang your hat on. Those kind of things that that this right here is an important moment, and this is what I see for this, right? I think it's important when you go in to talk to folks, you have to be open to it's obviously the director it's his vision or her vision, and you need to go in there with the idea that you're there to help that vision.
Yeah.
I definitely have ideas about what I'd want it to be like, but I'm not the director, so I've got to figure out how to. So what my job is I go in and I say, this is what I see. I usually, I really want them to speak first because I want to know what they want. But I do have an idea of images that thrilled me when I read it, or ideas for shots, and what did you think about this for this scene? We were talking earlier about William Eggleston and the central framing that he has, and how does that affect your actor, and what does that do for the scene? Is that something that interests you? Those are the kind of things. But usually it starts very broad, and also music. Actually, that's another thing. Yeah, music, because to me, music is universal and personal, right? It's both of those things, because everybody can feel a beat, or most everybody can feel a beat. But at the same time, that beat affects you differently, right?
Yeah.
So if I can, sometimes I'll get a piece of music in my head about while I'm reading something, and that also informs the feeling of it. Like, is it a swirling camera? Is it like something where you just do this constant dance, a rotation? And is it handheld and like really slap? You just go back and forth. Is it like Lars von Trier, where it's just you find it and it's just there? What is the key there? Am I U2 or Cage the Elephant? Am I where am I right now?
Do you go in and talk to the director about like the music that you think about?
Yeah, like one thing I read. And I was thinking Iron and Wine the whole time, and I'm going, this person will not know who Iron and Wine is. So I actually came in with like a little beat, a little music. On my phone. Yeah. And just said, when you're thinking about the scene, what did you think? Is this the kind of feel of it? And
that's an interesting way to approach it. Yeah. And I'd completely forgotten about this, but the first DP I ever worked with in my life said that to me. This is like in Orlando in like 1991.
Oh yeah.
He said like, bring me some music that reminds you of what you want it to feel like. And it's a great way to do it because it's completely like, it's not stepping on anyone's visual toes at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And and I think it's just integral. Like, did you see Cold War?
I did not.
Oh my God.
I have a 1-year-old baby, so I don't see anything. I see nothing.
Dude, you got Amazon, right?
I do have Amazon. Okay. I've been trying to watch the Suspiria remake for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, Cold War is one of those perfect examples of like where music integrated. It's about music too, so but it's so integrated into it and her voice is so haunting when she sings, and it just fits into the tone of it. So I mean, I can see where you could come up with a whole lighting scheme for that, like that based on the clubs and the thing. It's like
but it's weird because you don't think of music as visual, but if somebody plays a certain piece of music that reminds them of the film, that's
really think it's like, to me, that and sense of smell are the two biggest remembrances that I have in my life. Like I remember sounds and smell.
It sounds a lot easier than like, hey, come over, I'm going to cook you a salmon dinner to make the smell that'll remind you.
So does this smell remind you of your movie? I don't think that's I'm not going to try that one.
But the music thing, I mean, you could like make a Spotify playlist and say, here's what I was thinking. Yeah. I mean, do you present that to directors, or is it just something you bring up?
It really depends on what, where the meeting's going. Sometimes I'll just be like, I'll be talking, and then we'll start talking about music or talking about something. And I was like, I was hearing this while I was reading this. And
it's such an interesting approach.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said that. That is so brilliant.
I don't. Yeah. It was. I don't know. It's very, like I said, it's a very personal thing.
Yeah. But I think that like if you again, if you hear a piece of music, like there's a certain visual that would go with
Yeah. Well, don't you think that when you give someone a photograph, and you give someone or film, even more, you give someone a photograph or a film, then that is the expectation, right? That is the expectation. So
the color palette. I mean, like that's even something that they will tell you in like theater school, which is like find an image and then just use the colors and the textures and the lighting, like restrict your palette by finding that one thing.
And so I think,
but music wouldn't restrict your palette at all.
No, and you start the conversation with that, and then you restrict your palette.
Yeah,
sometimes that music will expand the world that the director hadn't seen before. And then, or they'll just hate it and they'll say, no, it's not that, it's this.
Yeah.
And then you can dive deeper into a certain area, So it's like, I try to be as open as possible to everything around, as far as like how to make the day flow, how to make the show flow, the movie. I mean, the filming, the lighting, you don't always succeed, but you got to push yourself to try. Generally speaking, I'm just really happy to be there because I'm getting to do stuff that I've always wanted to do. It's like, I'm very fortunate to, and then there are plenty of days where I just can't believe what's going on, and I just, the sun is coming in out of clouds, and suddenly there's a rainstorm, and it's like, got to shoot anyway, and
like
that
a conspiracy
kind of thing.
against you.
It's like, why? It's like I'm in Caddyshack, the holding other thing.
I was once at a shoot at Vasquez Rocks, and it started raining.
And Vasquez Rocks?
And
once in 10 years.
Nobody was prepared for what to do when it rains. They were backlighting with a xenon light, and it was like a decoder ring for the raindrop. It was just like, I guess we're just not going to shoot till this rain's gone.
Yeah.
But this isn't. I don't want to over ask questions about 30 Rock, and this is really more of just a general question. But it's like when you're doing a TV show versus doing features. Like when you're doing a feature, you have to tell one continuous story that is finite and has a beginning and an end.
Right.
But something that's episodic and goes on and on and on. And in fact, fact has different directors coming in. What is different for you in that? And also, like in TV, how much are you kind of the keeper of the flame, where it's like there's a way it has to look, and a new director who's never been on the show is there, and even if they're saying like no, even if they were, as you said, someone who's brought in to break it, there's breaking it, and then there's ruining it.
No, absolutely. And I think as a DP on a series, once it's going, you are the keeper. Yeah, like people come to you, like the script supervisor has the Bible of all the what these people have done and won't do, and what their character would be like, and so there's that. The actors have the way they think of their character. They will tell a director, no, well, Jack Donaghy wouldn't do that, or Liz Lemon would be over here, that kind of thing. They say that because they would know, and a director it does well to listen to that, unless they have a good reason not to, which is always, and
it's like you got Liz Lemon, so you have like, the creator of the show and one of the showrunners right there. So.
Sitting there, and she's typing the next script for the next show
really?
While she's in her chair, getting makeup done, looking at last looks, looking at to see how the rehearsal's going. And
is that really?
I'm not kidding. She worked so hard, and she's so smart, and just like it was. That's why I'm telling you, it was like
I just don't know how you trifurcate your brain in that way.
Yeah. And then she had her baby there too sometimes. So she's a wonder. But
wow.
But anyway, yes, you are the keeper of the flame, as you said, and it is something that I took very seriously, and I was like, this is how we do things. This is what it looks like. This is how we want to approach this. But I think that the one good thing about 30 Rock was I had this great mentor there, Don Scardino, who's also he's a director. He was the producer director of the series, and so he would bring in all the directors and walk them around set, and sort of introduce them to the areas, and we'd talk. I would usually have lunch with them, and we'd all talk about what was coming up. And so Don said one thing. He said, listen, in television, in comic television, people want to sit down on their couch and put on their warm coat, and they want to watch. And they want it to be the same coat when they put on their coat. They want it to be the same coat each time. So to me, that said that give us a look, give us a feel that will allow people to come back and sit down and say, oh, that's 30 Rock. Mm-hmm. And so that's what Vanja and I worked towards, was that kind of feeling of that, so that it would be comfortable. But at times we could like go off the deep end when we had our when they had a flu shot episode where everybody got flu shots and turned into zombies. We could do some crazy stuff then, but we always start off in that warm feeling. There was a funny story when we went to NBC wanted us to change to HD. We shot film the whole time, and so they wanted us to change to HD. And so Lauren and Tina said, let's try it. So we lined up all the cameras. We shot Sony, and we shot the Panavision Genesis, the Sony F35, the D20, and then we had our regular 5218 stock. And so we lit it all, and they're like, okay, that's cool. We can do HD. So they go to the office, and then NBC wasn't going to give them any of the money from how much money they were going to save. And so Lauren said, okay, we'll just keep shooting film then. So we got to shoot film. We did an episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but we did an episode about changing the show to HD, and we shot it in HD section. And it was like, but it wasn't HD, it was in film. But it was like Liz Lemon had like a mole with hairs coming out of it, and Jack McBrayer looked like Kenneth looked like a Muppet, and
that's so funny.
Jack Donaghy looked like a bald eagle. So
that's funny as
but
hell.
It was all, but that's all, that's all because we gave them that. What my point of the story was, like, because we gave them the warm coat to begin and end with every day, we could mash it up in between and do some different stuff.
So I know our time is running a little short, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Late Night, which obviously I haven't seen because it's
just
not out.
It's coming out. Yeah, it's coming out this weekend.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah.
So how did that come about, and how is that a culmination of like the work that you've done up until now?
Well, I don't think it's a culmination, meaning like it is a culmination in the sense of experience, because I think it was a difficult shoot, but a good shoot. And it's funny because sometimes a comedy can be some of the hardest things you do, because like I said, I wanted to keep it very naturalistic and very approachable.
When you're working with an actor who's like really good with comedy, but also like top flight dramatic.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like one of the best living actors.
And can turn on a dime. Like she can like emotional change on camera like that, and you're just like hook, line, and sinker. So like, I definitely want to bring my A game, and I wanted to keep it natural. I wanted to keep, part of my job is to make everybody look good as well on those, especially in that kind of scenario. And so that's part of the deal.
Well, isn't that like part of the DNA of comedy too? Like you kind of want to make everybody look like the goodest, most attractivist version of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And then so for me, it's harder because I want to keep it natural. I want to do all that stuff. Sometimes I feel like when I'm doing some little dramatic things that I can just turn on one light and walk out the door. It's like because it doesn't have to be specific, but one of the things we did on that was because sometimes we'd have 3 or 4 locations a day. We were going all over the city. It was a 25-day shoot. We had very little money. We went to use the Vericam 35 so that we could shoot out exteriors at night at the 5,000 ISO.
Love that camera.
Yeah, and it's amazing because it gives you a base. It changes the way you look at New York at night because it's overlit sometimes at night because with the 5,000 ASA. So you have to change. You have to manipulate that, but you have a good base. So we lost our generator. We didn't have a generator. We didn't have. It was like all low LEDs.
Nice.
It was like very small, plug into the wall kind of stuff. Put generators. Biggest light was a 4K. And I had great gaffer Ken Shibata and Tommy Kerwick Jr. was our key grip. We decided early on that's going to be our thing because we, to get the man days to do everything we needed to do. If we would have been hauling around a generator and hauling around, we just didn't have the man days, and it was we needed more time. I wanted more time for Nisha Ganatra, the director, to be able to work with the actors because Mindy's great and Emma's great, and the two of them meeting together needs to be right.
Yeah,
and they need to be able. They're different kind of comedians, Mindy's a very quick, snappy, and Emma's more like that British sort of.
Again, Emma's she's like I don't know if she's actually Shakespearean, but I assume she must be. Like she's like.
Well, she went to school with all the pythons.
Did she really?
Yeah, like they were in this. They were
Emma Thompson. But she's got to be like 20 years younger.
No. I mean, she went to the same school, and so they were all knew each other from her school.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Because like all of her early work, I remember was all like strictly drama.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, she was a comedian.
Was she?
Yeah, no joke. She was in England. She was in that's how she knew the pythons because they had been in the comedy troupe that she was in formerly. And so they were all. Ran in that same world.
Because I only associate Mindy Kaling with. I mean, I believe it.
Emma's hilarious. Yeah.
But I just also think she's. Oh yeah. Like in that Meryl Streep level of just just the best of the best.
Yeah. It was so I think the thing for me was to try and give Nisha time with those people, and so I needed to once again, like I seem to be saying this a lot, but have a plan, go in with my plan. And then try to back off as much as possible to allow for that space, to allow for the comedy to happen. They did a lot of back and forth with each other, so we need to have room for that. We were up 15 floors, I think it was 15th floor, in a skyscraper in New York. Couldn't put lights outside, so we did indies. Tommy cut all these indie hard gels for one side for all the windows, so we'd have indie 3, 6, and 9 for each window.
Oh wow!
And then I take that back. We didn't have any 3s. We had 6s and 9s. And then we would we'd put like at one end, like we'd start with them all in and then decide where I wanted the key light to come from. And we'd take those out. Oh, so we were using the natural light, but you're still up, but you're keeping the light down on your background so you can up your stop inside. And so it was an exterior.
Did you shoot the whole show on the Vericam 35?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole show.
Because I mean, it's interesting because like obviously you have to in the comedy and the kind of thing you're doing, you're trying to make people look good, but you're working on super high ISO.
Yeah.
Did you?
When we shot the daytime stuff, we shot on the native 800, so but it's still high.
But I'm just wondering, like, did you encounter? We try not to get too techie here, but did you encounter like any grain, or did you have to work against?
No, not really. I added grain.
Really?
At the end of it, yeah. And it's interesting because it's natively that ISO, so it really doesn't degrade. I mean, it's
even at 5,000?
5,000, because that's what the chip's made for.
So, oh wow.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, there's occasionally, because if you're out there and you don't have lights and you're doing without lights, then something goes black and there might be a little noise in there, but it's nothing. I actually added grain to the whole thing, to the whole movie.
Interesting.
Nisha and I've known Nisha from school. She was at NYU with me.
Oh wow!
And so we talked about it a long time ahead of time, even before I got involved in prep. And so I was able to go to the colorists that I used light iron, and sat with them. We got our cameras from Panavision and used light iron for the coloring and post, and I was able to sit with Corinne here in LA and sort of come up with an idea from some footage that Nisha and I had shot before about the idea of it, like the idea of like color in the shadows and blue in the shadows for certain areas, because we wanted the office to be very like cold and corporate.
Yeah.
And to slowly develop a little bit of warmth over time. And then we wanted...
and that's all done in post?
No, we did that lighting as well, but it was accentuated in post.
Got it.
You know, that kind of thing. So we... and we wanted Emma's house, Catherine, this is her character, a house to be sort of warm and glowy and very upscale and sophisticated. And we wanted the studio to be very neutral and crisp. Mm-hmm. So those were the three ideas we went in with. So then we shot... and, you know, I changed, like, we do the lighting accordingly. So I knew this area was going to be warm and glowy, so we make it as warm and glowy as I could. And then in post, we were able to accentuate that by adding some grain and by taking the cool tones out of the shadows. Mm-hmm. And then we went to the office. We added some cool tones back into the shadows. Whenever I was doing the interior work, I treated the interior work in the office like an exterior shoot because I was used to using the windows for light mostly. Yeah, yeah. And so any kind of bounce light in there, I would add color to it, whichever way I wanted to go. If I wanted to go warm, I would add warmth and bounce or cool, because sometimes I think the way that the world doesn't have the same color temperature everywhere. So you sort of change from warm to cold as you go around and that kind of thing, and it gives a more real look to me.
That's awesome. And I mean, also kind of winding up here, but sometimes people ask us about film school because obviously, like in this day and age, by the time you were old enough to go to college, if you had you've probably had access to a DSLR camera and some kind of editing software. But it sounds to me like you would be an advocate for film school because you're still even working with people who you met at NYU.
And I think to me that was the exposure was the most important thing to me. I grew up in Georgia and Arkansas and went to school in West Virginia, so I didn't have exposure to film sets. Yeah. Right? So when I got to go to NYU, that was the biggest thing. I got opened up. I mean, Spike Lee was one of my professors. So I mean,
oh my God, really?
Yeah. So I mean, that's the kind of...
What was he like as a professor?
It's freaking cool.
That's awesome.
Rolls in, does his thing, you know, it's like, it's pretty great. Yeah,
oh man.
It's really great. It was and he was a directing professor and he was very direct. So he had an opinion, and you heard it. And it was, and that's, you know, and I think that's what we all went there for, you know. Film school, I think, is great for those things, for the relationships you have with people coming out. That's important, because those are the people you hopefully will work with. If half the students knew the power they had by working together on something, they could take over the world. They really could. I mean, but we didn't, I don't think anybody knows at that point because everybody's trying to push to trying to elevate themselves out of it. But if you elevate together, then you can do more, and it's a really great time to do that, you know, because the video and film are so accessible. Now. So and for me, I started working as an electrician right out of while I was in school. My last year in grad school, I was working as an electrician on these low budget movies. You know, so I would work in the morning at the Fulton Fish Market pulling cable, and then go to class in the afternoon and then come back. Wow. And, you know, and so it was like I loved being on set. So, you know, I did as much as I possibly could. And then when I got out, I continued to work as an electrician and then started gaffing more.
Including on Fish Belly White.
Including Fish Belly White. Yeah. Yes.
Fish Belly White. I'm sure if Fish Belly White hadn't won, neither would I.
Yeah, right.
Somebody else would have gotten the prize.
Ben, it would have been you. But no, I think the thing in film school though, always remember is like you have your own voice. That's the reason you got there, and so to make sure you learn that voice and you know, and study your craft, and whether it's directing or writing or photography, and you know, and be able to take chances, be able to fail. Because once you get out in the real world, it's hard to fail and not get like slammed for it.
Yeah, it dings you.
Yeah, it dings you a little bit. So, you know, it's like and take that take those times seriously and have fun with it. You know, that's really sort of I don't know. Can you say that? Have fun with it and take it seriously? I think so.
You can. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, work hard, but don't stress too much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I think
everyone stresses out making their student films.
No, it's so true. It's so true. But yeah, I think it's to me. My son's actually going to film school right now.
Oh, really?
So
Where's he going?
He's going to Chapman.
Oh, nice.
Screenwriter. I told him to get a residual check. So get something you can get a residual check for. So.
I always think it's a scandal that DPs and editors and production designers don't get residuals.
Yeah, we gave that up for healthcare.
Yeah, but writers and actors and directors get healthcare.
I know. Believe me, I know. Yeah. Little like dig every once in a while when I'm on set. There's my.
I just think it's a scandal. It's like it's like all of those people are crucial.
Yeah, it's true, and especially on a pilot where you set a look for for people down the road, a long way down the road. So,
so if people are looking for you online, where can they find you? Do you have a portfolio online? Or?
Matthew Clark DP.
And are you on the Instagrams or the Twitters or anything?
I'm not. Okay. No.
You have many more hours in your day than I do. Then.
Yes, exactly. I like looking at all that stuff, but I just don't ever jump in there. I just don't jump in. I stay
smarter
out.
that way.
Yeah. I go hiking and go up to my, hang out with my dog.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So that was Matt Clark. Thank you so much for coming out, Matt.
Matt, that was great. Definitely want to have you come back again.
And everybody, in the sound of my voice, please go see Late Night, currently in theaters.
That's right. Hey, Ben, we got some fan mail.
That never happens to me.
Oh, it does happen, but we got
Only
it. Only
Blair Witch fans. I'll occasionally get some Blair Witch fans.
We're getting Instagram direct messages. In fact, we got one from Kushi Nuna, who is in India, who wrote us on Instagram saying, "You guys are amazing." There's a lot of G's at the end. Just binge listen to all 36 episodes with specials. Can't wait for more.
My God.
You guys are the best teachers. Believe me, big heart.
I really appreciate that. And also, I apologize to anyone who has to listen to my voice for 36 episodes. That's as close to being my wife as anyone will ever know.
Thank you so much for the awesome message on Instagram. Totally appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We got another on Instagram, though, here just the day before. Just discovered your podcast, and I can't get enough. As a growing cinematographer new to Los Angeles, it's nice to hear right from the mouths of these big-time DPs. Perspective is so important! ! Thanks again. Keep up the amazing work. And that's from eggwaldo.dp on Instagram.
So Eric should come on by the Hot Rod Cameras.
He should totally come by Hot Rod Cameras. Yeah, say hello. He's local.
Walk on in, right?
That's right. He can. He can,
He can walk on in, and then you'll give him a T-shirt, right?
Yeah, you know what? I will give him a T-shirt.
All right, come on by, Eric.
Eric, you heard us call you out now. You're local. Come on by. Let me know what size shirt you wear, and you're gonna get a shirt.
That's sweet. That's very nice of you to offer.
You forced my hand. It was gonna happen anyway, but I'm glad you did.
Charles Pappert will personally give you a T-shirt.
Charles Pappert will not personally give him a T-shirt.
That's too bad. Charles, I know you're listening, Charles.
It's funny because he's not listening. He has stopped responding to all of your shout outs.
All right, so Ilya, let's go into short ends.
And now, short ends.
So Ben, it's short end time.
It is indeed short end time.
Hey, you got a short end? You want to?
I do, and sometimes I don't even realize that I'm kind of fascinated by something until I really start to put my mind to it. Because again, swear jar sound effect with a baby. I just don't get to do as much reading and watching and stuff as I used to. But one thing I do a lot is watch stuff on YouTube. I stumbled across a YouTube channel called Corridor Crew. And Corridor Crew is a bunch of guys from a VFX company called Corridor Digital.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And they basically they do episodes where they analyze visual effects in movies. Sometimes they'll do visual effects. One time they brought in video co-pilots Andrew Kramer.
Ooh, I know you have a huge man crush on Andrew Kramer.
Everybody who's ever learned After Effects from Video Copilot has a huge crush, man or woman crush, on Andrew Kramer. But they brought him in because they were doing some stuff about The Force Awakens, and he did a bunch of VFX on The Force Awakens. And One of the more interesting ones I saw was one, and maybe this is even more of a spark for a deeper conversation on deepfakes, because they brought in a Tom Cruise impersonator who has like the mannerisms and the voice totally, but like a lot of impersonators, doesn't look exactly like Tom Cruise. Like he looks enough like Tom Cruise that if you had him at an event playing Tom Cruise, you'd go with it. But he doesn't look exactly like Tom Cruise. And then they did a deep fake on him and put Tom Cruise's face on him.
Oh yeah,
and
creepy.
It's still a little uncanny valley, the deep fake technology. But I always thought, because I hadn't really looked into it, because I'm not that curious about deep fakes. I'm
You're just not that curious in general.
I'm not that curious. I'm set in my ways. I like my turkey burger at Astro, and the rest of the world can go fuck itself. But in all seriousness,
that is a joke for me and like 9 other people who know you, because it's
anyone who's ever known me knows that we go to Astro, I get a turkey burger. Anyway,
wait a second. We just got to unpack this a little bit here for everyone else so they can be in on the joke as well. I've known you 17 years, something like that. Probably now.
Thereabouts, since 2002.
I think twice we've had meals together in a restaurant where you did not order a turkey burger. That's like,
yeah. But the other thing is, like, when I'm in the Silver Lake, Los Feliz, Atwater Village, Eagle Rock,
any excuse you can,
Echo Park
you'll drive out of your way to go have that turkey burger.
I will often go to Astro, not Astro Burger, but Astro, which is on the corner of Glendale and Fletcher, and it's my favorite diner in the world, and I'll get a turkey burger. Thank you very much. I don't even know why I look at the menu when I go there, because that's what I'm getting. Anyway,
okay.
We've lost 3/4 of our listeners.
Okay, well, now that that's done, I just think it's incredible that I got you to talk about food for that long, even if it was your favorite food ever. So okay, so please continue.
So anyway, I didn't really know anything about the deepfake technology, but watching the Corridor Crew do this thing with Tom Cruise and this Tom Cruise impersonator, who, by the way, was a pretty amazing Tom Cruise impersonator. Like, I realized, and I'm sure everyone who knows anything for real about deepfakes knows that you're using a program, and movie stars are easy to do because there's all this footage of them, and you're using artificial intelligence and machine learning to figure out like everything about the way they look, their teeth, their eyes, blah blah blah, and then you're mapping it onto somebody else's performance, and adding in the
it's like the Obama video that went around,
the appropriate shadows, and adding in all this stuff. But it was actually kind of weird to see, like, a guy who is a professional Tom Cruise impersonator, has even met Tom Cruise, suddenly having real Tom Cruise mapped onto his face.
The Corridor guys are really smart and really clever. We've had them in the shop here. They did a presentation at Hot Rod.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, they're we get around a little bit. So yeah, the Corridor guys have been here. So it's
you should introduce me.
It could happen. So.
I'll fanboy out on them. So anyway, check out their YouTube channel, Corridor Crew. There's a lot of I've always found discussions of VFX to be very interesting. In fact, our very first guest ever on the podcast was Jason Wingrove, who was on the RC, which was a podcast that was produced by FX Guide. And FX Guide also did the VFX show, and I learned like 80% of what I'd ever learned about visual effects just listening to VFX guys yammer about what they do. I find it fascinating. I don't know if anyone else does. Obviously, some other people do. And I think the Corridor Crew does a really interesting job in a similar way to how the VFX show still does, frankly, in kind of bringing it to life and showing you like minor flaws, or showing you, like, you know, they'll find like one frame that went out in a finished movie in theaters where all the VFX were gone. Like, that stuff is it's always interesting. But I've just been finding myself watching a lot of the videos on their channel. Anyway, what is your short end, Ilya?
My short end this week is also another form of media. It's Film and Digital Times. It is a magazine, a website.
A print magazine?
It is still a print magazine, yeah. It's a publication that's essentially put on by well, I mean, I think he has a little bit of help, but basically the editor-in-chief, founder is John Fowler. And John Fowler was a cinematographer in his own right, and he made a fantastic movie years ago called Cinematographer Style. And I first became aware of John Fowler because I have no idea what year it was now, but I found it probably in the early 90s. He wrote sort of the official handbook for camera assistants out there for the Arri 435 camera. John is a very smart, very technical guy, and he's also been very flattering of Hot Rod over the years. He's written some nice stuff about us, but
nice.
He occupies, in my opinion, basically sort of the top slot of technical free online publications that are out there. I mean, if you were to look at the hierarchy, you might have like a Cinema 5D at the very, very bottom, like the, maybe the least technical and the most consumer oriented and, sort of aiming towards, the aspirational.
Can I say this? I'm, as a big fan of Cinema 5D, actually, they chose a bad name. Because they chose a name that's like going to age out quickly because
it's already aged out. Yeah, it's long since aged out.
Yeah. I mean, no offense towards the Canon 5D, but Cinema 5D started when that was like a new thing, and now we've moved on to like every other thing that could ever have existed.
But they didn't really tend to move with it, and I'll tell you that if we're going to go through the hierarchy real quick here, I'll say Cinema 5D. Then probably No Film School. I think No Film School
they're great.
As a notch up from them.
I love them.
And then probably the next step up for at least for technical accuracies called News Shooter. So newsshooter.com.
Never heard of it. I'll check it out.
And then moving even further up is Film and Digital Times. So you can subscribe to Film and Digital Times, I think, and have it sent to you. But they often post stuff online.
Yeah, I've seen their stuff online. So. But I mean, like, I feel like all the ones you mentioned, like they're all useful. It's just I feel like you're going up a scale of technical wonkishness.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just did.
Okay,
that's exactly what I just did.
I thought you were going up a scale of quality.
Yeah, I equate one and the same. So I would say that if you one of them, you're going to have much less technically accurate information. And one, you're going to have way, way more technically vetted information. One of them, you might just have someone stating opinion as fact, and the other one is actually fact. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Fair.
But okay, so Film and Digital Times had a wonderful supplement that came out in April. And there's a big, huge spread on Canon and talks about the history of Canon lenses. And inside of it, they actually take you through and explain the process of making lenses and the history of cinema lenses from Canon, and takes you up to today. And I found it all fascinating. And if you are interested in any of that sort of technical stuff, you're going to want to look at Film and Digital Times.
I will make it a point, because I know I've read some of their stuff, but I'll make it a point to...
I will hand you one as you walk out the door. I got some printed ones in the camera.
Cool. I can't wait to find that 5 years from now in my car and be like, what the hell is this?
What is this thing that Elliot gave me?
No, I'll totally read it. I promise you I'll read it.
He's never going to read it.
Okay. I'll totally read it.
Anyway, so Ben, I think that pretty much wraps up our show. Where can people find you online?
You can find me at benrockonline.com, and that's where you'll find my reels and other exciting things, and my links to social media are on there as well. Or you can go to Twitter at Neptune Salad. That's probably the easiest way to find me. Please feel free to go in there, say hi.
You can find me at Hot Rod Cameras, or on the Instagrams at Hot Rod Cameras. You can find me anywhere there is Hot Rod Cameras, and that's it. Hey, let's thank our incredible team. Let's thank producer Alana Cody,
Woo!
Our editorial staff, Ben and Abby,
Woohoo!
Kays Alatrachi. I gave him a real hard time last week about not listening to the show. Maybe he'll do it and hear the sound of my voice.
Jerk.
All right, Ben, I got nobody else to thank.
All right, well, let's thank the audience. Thank you for tuning in.
Oh, and actually, we should say, if you're still listening, please subscribe, please like, please write a review, do one of those things.
Yeah, if any of those things, they all help. They help people find the show. If you like our show, tell your friends in film schools around the world.
Yeah, you want to support the show, you can also shop with our sponsors. You can support Hot Rod Cameras. You can support Airy.
Yeah. Those things. Yeah. We love you. We love you, listeners. Thank you very much. See you next time.
This has been the Cinematography Podcast, presented by Hot Rod Cameras. Find your next camera, lens, or accessory on the web at hotrodcameras.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on iTunes and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.